put it back in again to time everything out. But has anybody got any questions about anything else in this box while we're standing here?
Don't worry about that.
It rarely happens. Right.
That's in the down line.
So this is the south ground frame because it's at the south end. And inside we've got a red light on. So you need to do it more slowly. That's it. Okay, now give this one a good pull. Okay, now try putting 2 back in.
Come to a clear understanding
between everybody involved. As long as we know what is going on and as long as we know what we're planning.
You have to engage buffet crew as well to assist under those
What else?
handbrake is on. Yes. Okay. Okay. Right.
See you yet. So it is very obvious when you find it.
Oh dear.
So just let everyone come through before you actually react to what you find.
Okay,
we're actually picking up after the last scenario.
He's actually had a look at you.
So some of your colleagues came and put him on the floor like that, and then they went off.
Like that.
And they said they were going to go and sort things.
Okay, right.
here we are in the Loco shed, where we've got the Lilla's boiler, which is sat in here just at the moment out of the way of the workshop, but it's just had a 10-year boiler exam, and you'll notice there's numbers written all over the boiler. They're thickness measurements that have been made to ascertain that the boiler's in a good state. We used an ultrasonic thickness tester for that, and the boiler inspector declared himself happy with the state of the boiler. So the next thing to do is to fit the new tubes into the boiler, which are ready, sat in the workshop, and they'll go in when there's some people available to do that. But that's not a high priority job just at the moment, because we've got to get all the other engines that we need for traffic ready for the season, including the Merlin Emrys, which is here behind me. That's sat on what we call ambulance bogies at the moment, which is just a bogie or pair of bogies to move it around on. Its own proper power bogies in the workshop, and they've had a load of work done to them this winter. All sorts of mechanical work on the axle boxes, horns and valve gear, but they're pretty well done now, and they'll be going back under the Loco quite soon. And then over the other way we've got the Linda, which is just had some tubes replaced in the bottom of the boiler, lower part of the boiler barrel, because they'd been corroded away at the smokebox end. That's just had a hydraulic test. The boiler inspector is happy with it, and the next thing is to do a steam test, which is why it's been warmed up today, and then the completely rebuilt front truck can go back under it, and that's waiting in the workshop. And the lid is also being lit up as well. That's had a load of work done on the superheater elements, which we'd found cracks in. So we've repaired those, shortened the elements a little bit to get rid of the cracking area, and anyway, that's hopefully, I say, been warmed up now and be ready for service. Here we have the new boiler tubes for the Lilla. They're nice and shiny, as you can see, brand new, but the ends are discoloured, and that's where they've been heated up here by the gang of volunteers that have been working on the Lilla. They've warmed the ends up to anneal them or soften them, which will make them easier to fit in the holes in the boiler. Because to fit them, each end has to be expanded into the hole in the boiler, and we've got special expander tools to do that. So these are ready to fit now into the Lilla's boiler, which we saw before, and when the new tubes are in, we can then do a hydraulic test, which is a water pressure test, and if the boiler inspector is happy with that, then the Loco can go back together again, and then it's just a matter of a steam test after that. Sounds easy, but it's quite a lot of work. Behind me over there is a bit of the James Spooner's new boiler. The rest of the parts are still at Powys Steel Fabrications in Llangynog, where they are welding together various the components. The fireboxes have been assembled, the outer wrapper has all been assembled, the throat plates, the domes have been put together, the girder bars are on the fireboxes, so there's lots of bits been put together. But the final assembly of the boiler is going to be done here because we've got a more space and a larger overhead crane to do that. And the foundation ring will be finally riveted here. The stays will be going in here as well, and the final completion of the boiler. Here we've got the part of the cradle frame for the James Spooner. What's happening at the moment is that these bolts are being fitted which tie the whole assembly together. These are, in this case, these are off-the-shelf commercial bolts that are being made a very good fit indeed into the frame plates, so that there should be no danger of the plates moving relative to each other when the loco's in service. If we do this on an engine frame where there's actual mechanical parts working, we need to go to a better fit still for the bolts, and what those bolts will be individually made, or made to a much higher degree of accuracy and be made a drive fit. But because this frame doesn't have mechanical moving parts in it, we can make these a reasonably good fit, but they don't have to be a drive fit like they do for the frame plates, particularly for this stretcher here, which has to come out from time to time to get access to the throat plates of the boiler. The rest of the frame assembly is over there, and you can see that this will be one end of the loco. The boiler barrel will sit in here, and the two fireboxes sit in this opening in the middle. So what we're hoping is once the boiler of the James Spooner is assembled, the next stage will be to put the boiler into this frame, which should be ready by then, and have the whole lot sat on the bogies, which will then allow lots of other work to continue on the loco. All sorts of other bits and pieces can be assembled, and reversing gear, particularly brake gear, and then the next stage will be tanks and cab, although we're a little way off doing that just yet. Here we've got the David Lloyd George. As you can see, all the fittings and cladding are off the driver's side of the two inner firebox, two fireboxes. What we've been doing is completely restaying this side of the boiler. We've done that because we've had sort of repeated problems with stay breakage, much more on this side than on the other side. We're sure that that's because of on the other side of the boiler there's the two fire hole doors which tie the inner and outer fireboxes very rigidly together. On this side there's no fire hole doors, and so there's just a great expanse of flat plate on the inner and outer fireboxes that are tied together with stays, so there's a lot more movement goes on this side. I say we've had repeated stay breakage, so what we decided to do was to replace all the stays on this side of the boiler, and you can see there's the end of a stay just there. So all the old stays had to be drilled out, and there's the remains of the middle of a stay that's, because it's been drilled out from either end, it then drops into the foundation ring in the space between the inner and outer fireboxes. And what's happening at the moment is that they're fishing out all these broken bits of stay, and there's about 90 of them, and it's taking quite a while fishing them all out, as you can see. The new stays are all welded in place now, and we hope there's a slightly revised design of stay, which we hope will prove more robust. Again, once all these old stays are fished out, the washout plugs can go back in the boiler and be filled with water, and we'll do a hydraulic test on it. Because again, the boiler inspector will need to see that there's no leakage from anywhere and no stays are breaking. Right, here we've got the 2 bogies for carriage number 21. Carriage 21 is a all new recreation, replica, whatever you want to call it, of an Ashbury carriage. All the originals were lost years ago, so we're recreating it. This is a pair of traditional style FR Heritage carriage bogies, slightly upgraded, but basically the same design as would have been built by the Spooners in the 1870s and 1880s. We've got traditional plain bearing axle boxes. They've machined up in the machine shop, ready at the moment. So we've got the wheel sets ready. Here we've got the frames with the brake hangers, and here is an assembly, 2 of which will sit inside each side, the inside of the bogie frames, and they'll be the secondary suspension carriers. So in there'll be a pair of springs and a shock absorber, which is an improved arrangement on what we've done latterly, and also on the originals as well. Here we've got the axle boxes for carriage number 21's bogies, which are all new. We had to make a new pattern to get the castings done for these, as we'd run out of original ones that we'd been able to reuse in previous carriage recreation projects. So these are all new. They've taken quite a bit of work. There's a top part where the spring weight bears, and the brass bearing sits in here under there that actually transfers the load to the top, and then the bottom, well, it has a front cover and a seal at the back where the axle enters, and in the bottom there'll end up being an oil pad that contains oil to keep the bearing lubricated. So these will require regular oiling just like the originals did. These are the finished bronze bearings, or brasses, that will be used in Car 21's bogies. So the axle journal actually runs in there, and the weight from the top of the axle box presses down on there, and it can rock slightly in this sort of cup arrangement, which allows the axle box to articulate slightly on the axle end. And as well as that, down here we've got some brand new wheel castings which have been partially machined. These are being done as a project for wagon restorations and recreations. They're I think some of them are going on gunpowder wagons, and I'm not sure, maybe the I think the brine tank wagon recreation is going to use some of these wheels as well. Okay, here we've got Welsh Pony. All the inside motion valve gear has now been finally assembled. Although it's not that easy to see, that's a large chunk of work that's finished and done, and the springs are in there, so all that work inside the frames is now completed. There's an active volunteer group now working on the project as well, and they were here last weekend and they've tackled various areas. They trial fitted the outer side frames, and they've been drilling holes ready to mount those up, and they've been, if you have a look over there, they've been cutting and rolling steel sheets which will form the cladding for the boiler. So it's quite a bit of progress going on, and you know, hopefully that will continue for well, until the loco's finished. The volunteer group are pretty keen, and they're coming every few weeks. We've decided to replace the coupling and connecting rods on the Welsh Pony, as they've got quite a few problems, and the connecting rods were found to be different lengths. So we decided the best course of action was to fabricate new rods, which fabrication phase has been done, and they're now off being stress relieved, which basically involves putting them in a controlled temperature oven for some while to remove all the welding stresses from the fabrication. And so when they come back, there'll be a fair bit of machining on those to do to finish them off, fit the new brasses, to the actual bearing parts that are needed. So there's quite a bit of work going on Welsh Pony at the moment. This is the second prototype carriage we're building for the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway. This is a standard class carriage, as opposed to the observation first class carriage we finished last time. So this is again, it's a prototype. Hopefully this will be their new standard design. It's got a carbon steel underframe with a stainless steel body frame welded to it, and then it's clad externally with aluminium. It's got the same tumble home body side that gives a bit more room internally than their existing carriages. But otherwise, a lot of the parts are standard with things they've already got in service. The bogies are an existing Ravenglass design that we've built for them. But otherwise, we're hoping to have, well, we'll have an improved seat design, better insulation, double glazing, heating and so on, which basically should be an upgrade on their line's existing carriages.